Serious Fun, Presentation Video 9. What can be done? Here's the outline for the presentation. It has an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. In the introduction, there's a greeting, a title, and there's a preview. Notice that he addresses the audience as ladies and gentlemen, which is formal. And he is not familiar with the audience, so he explains his job and why he's qualified to speak on the topic. He's a loan officer at a bank, so he can speak about inflation. The body has 3 parts. The first part, he describes or defines the problem. He then talks about why it's a problem, what are the negative consequences of the problem. He then transitions to the cause. He says there are 2 causes, supply and demand, and the rise in production costs. He then transitions to the solution and says that what can be done is that the flow of money can be controlled. And that can be controlled by the central banks or the Federal Reserve in the United States. So central banks can control the flow of money by using interest rates. He then transitions to the conclusion, gives a summary, thanks the audience, and asks for questions. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me. My name is Jim Jensen, and I am from CB Bank. I am a loan officer, and I'm going to speak on inflation. I feel qualified to speak on inflation because as a loan officer, I deal with interest rates and loans and prices. I'm familiar with all these issues that are related to inflation, as we will see. I think it's very interesting because inflation is affecting all of us. I will briefly define inflation, and then I will mention 2 common causes and what might be a solution. Well, what might help with the problem. A solution is very difficult because inflation is very difficult. First, inflation is a rise in the average prices of a number of goods and services. It is measured as a percentage over time, usually 1 year. So if the rise in a price goes from 100 yen to 102 yen, that is a 2% inflation rate. And that's not bad. 2% is very healthy. A little bit of inflation is natural, normal. When inflation gets higher, it becomes problematic. The negative consequence of high inflation rate is that the value of people's money decreases, money loses power, so people buy less, and an economy suffers, struggles. The cause of inflation is very complex, or more than one cause. I should say the causes. But there are 2 common causes which I'll discuss. One is supply and demand. If people are working, they have money and wages, but the supply of goods is restricted for some reason, those prices will increase as people have the money to pay more. Other common problem is a rise in the cost of production. If Saudi Arabia, for example, raises the price of oil, everything that uses oil, from driving an automobile to generating electricity to making plastic, those prices will go up. The cost of oil is passed on to the consumer. So those are two common causes. And the solution, what can be done? Something can be done. It may not completely solve the problem because the problem is complex, but one thing that can be done is to control the flow of money. And the government can do this by raising and lowering interest rates. The interest rates that the central bank lends to other banks. That frees up loans to the public and gives more money or less money to be circulated. Let's look at this chart. It's from the United States. It's the Federal Reserve. It's interest rate and consumer prices. The vertical axis is percentage. Horizontal axis is the years. The red line is the federal interest rates, and the blue line is the prices as a percentage of the prior year. And you can see that prices are tied to the federal interest rate. It's clear that by raising or lowering interest rates, the federal government, the federal bank, the central bank, can affect inflation. Something can be done. In conclusion, I want to say that this may be an oversimplification because inflation has many causes and other solutions depending on the cause. But one thing that can be done is the central bank. In the United States, it's the Federal Reserve. In Japan, it's the central bank. These central banks can do something. Something can be done. And because inflation is a problem, something should be done. And I'll finish by saying, I think something will be done. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them.